This podcast is meant for general health information and is not meant to override any medical advice. All questions will be screened and not contain any personal information. If you want a private consultation, contact us via positivechoice.org, or you can contact your provider directly. Thank you and enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome to the Positive Choice Wellness Podcast. My name is Melanie and I'm an exercise physiologist.
And my name is Kimberly and I'm a registered dietitian.
Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing well. It is a nice gloomy day outside and I was born and raised in the Bay Area, so I'm like, oh, this is
Normalcy.
nice.
Yes,
Which,
that's awesome.
You know, I don't know when this episode's going to air, but it's currently June gloom. So definitely not this month, but might be July or August. Who knows?
Keep you on your toes. Yeah.
Exactly. So before we jump in today, I wanted to ask you, what brings you joy today, Kimberly?
That's a good question. What is bringing me joy? Well, I was going to actually say the weather. I do love this kind of weather, but I feel like I say that every single time. So let me think.
We can come back to you.
Come back to me. Come back to me. You go.
Okay. Well, I know what brings me joy today because I'm going on a vacation next week.
No way. That's the best.
So I am in vacation mode. My brain has decided it no longer wants to be at work, and it is very difficult to do my job. So it's been great. Because I'm like, ooh, it'll be nice to like not do anything. This will be great.
Yes. The dream.
I'm very excited. So can't wait. I'm looking very much forward to it. I'm leaving in a few days, so very close.
So fun. Yep. Final countdown. Home stretch.
Exactly. Now, put you back on the spot, Kimberly. Do you have an idea of what brings you joy today?
Yes. And that helped me. How silly. The fact that like summer is upon us is making me really happy. I don't traditionally love summer because, you know, it can get pretty hot, but, and I don't love the heat, but, I just love the like mentality almost of like June, July, August. It's just nice, to be in that season.
Yeah. I like it for the lack of the excessive amount of holidays we have to deal with. So it just kind of feels like a nice breath of fresh air. We get like one holiday and that's like it.
Yeah.
So
chilling otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's generally not a holiday most people are concerned about when it comes to their health. So it's like, it's just nice. It's just nice.
You're right. That's an easy season to navigate for the most part, right?
For the most part. Like I can't say 100% because, you know, it like we're talking 4th of July when that eventually comes up. I'm sure people probably might struggle a little bit with like potlucks or barbecues, but
100%.
I feel you. I do like the summer.
Right.
I'm going to a warm place, so I cannot escape this. I am escaping this weather. I cannot escape the heat, unfortunately.
Still, it's different when it's not your own heat. When it's vacation heat, it's more tolerable.
It's vacation heat, and I'll be in a pool all day, so I can't complain. Yeah.
Set up for success there. That's perfect.
Exactly. Well, our topic today has nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far, and
True.
That is just how it's going to be today. So we're actually going to talk about fitness after injuries and potentially illness if that comes up, and also maybe just like what to do if you do get injured. You know, what's the game plan there? Because I thought I can't remember if we have talked about this before. I don't feel like we have, but it is an important thing to remind people of when it comes to your workouts and what you need to do for your body. Is, you know, I feel like a lot of people once they get hurt, it's like, let's stop. And
yes, 100%. I was going to say the same thing. The I don't know what we have like ingrained in our brains almost is just like, oh, pain, like something's injured, something's bad. Just stop it all. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I figured shedding some light on what the science is around that, what it means for us, and, you know, some of the cool things that I learned when I was in school. So I get to share those. So that's fun.
Heck yes. That's always fun. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I kind of like to start off. Let's start off with just when you get injured, because what I think we'll spend more time on is what to do after you've started getting over your injury. But when you get injured, you know, it could be like rolling an ankle or, you know, breaking a bone. Like there are things that might happen that can put you out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And and for a while, you know,
some
of those last a long time.
Which ironically, breaking a bone is not the one you might be thinking of when it comes to what makes you stick out. Yeah.
I was thinking that it would be like a, like a torn tendon or muscle, right? Like, doesn't that take longer than bone
It
healing?
does. Yeah. It's
Misery.
sad. It's
Yeah.
depressing actually, because like bones can heal about like 6 to 8 weeks sometimes, maybe a little longer depending on the severity of the break. They heal relatively quickly in comparison to our tendons and ligaments,
Okay.
which are what connects either a bone to bone or a muscle to bone.
Okay.
And I think it's just a weird concept when people like, I sprained my ankle. I'm like, you were better off breaking it. Yeah, would have healed faster.
Yes. The ankle is exactly what I was thinking. Like rolled ankles take forever to heal. Or like if someone has a strained like muscle shoulder or like, you know what I'm saying? Like something like that. It can hurt for some people for years, depending on if you take care of it or not. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think a good place to start, of course, is, when we get injured, there's different kinds of injuries. And, we have like hard injuries, like a break, or we have like the soft injuries, which are just kind of like soft tissue, like your tendons and ligaments, muscles, and so forth. And kind of differentiating between those, because with a hard break, like an injury like that, where it's like bone, you're going to be in a cast or a boot or something that's immobilizing it because you want the bones to heal properly. So in that instance, this is like my favorite part of talking this because it's so short. Yeah. Listen to your doctor. That's all I got to say. Like just start
what
there.
Advice. Yes. I love that.
So what your doctor says you do with a break, you do, because it's about healing the bone. And generally speaking, bones will heal a little bit faster than soft tissue injuries. So once that's healed, then the rest of our conversation later will be applicable. But for right now, you deal with the doctor, and that's just where you're at.
Absolutely.
Now, with soft tissue injuries, it's interesting, actually, because that could be, and I always think of like spraining an ankle as a really easy one, because I think most people at some point in their lives sprain their ankle at least once. If you haven't, lucky you.
Yeah.
I couldn't count how many times I've sprained my ankles, plural. So, once you sprain it once, you're prone to spraining it over and over again, unfortunately. So,
right.
But if we use an ankle sprain as an example here, just for the sake of example, when that happens, what's the first thing most people opt to do when they sprain something?
Isn't it like, is it the thing with the acronym? Like you elevate and you ice and you whatever.
Yes,
like
the thing with the acronym. Yes. RICE.
Right. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Rest, ice, compress, elevate. Is that it?
Yeah, you got it.
Oh,
Yay.
hey.
Yeah, and that's wrong. So... But
don't do that.
To be serious, though, so I originally learned RICE when I was in my undergrad, and it was my athletic training program that I had to take for my degree. And the trainer was teaching us different ways of like wrapping, compressing, like icing, like talking all about it, these different methods of dealing with injuries. And at the time, that was valid. And RICE was what you did. But then as research started coming out more, they started coming to the conclusion that actually that was not the best at healing. In fact, it was the best at pain mitigation. So if you want to reduce the pain to an injured area, sure, rest it, ice it, compress it, elevate it, do all those things that would cause it to not hurt as much. But as far as like healing goes, you're actually prolonging the healing process by doing that.
Interesting. Does it have to do with like, because I feel like I've heard this before, like it has to do with blood flow almost. And doesn't ice kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't promote blood flow, No.
So yeah, every part of that acronym, rest, ice, compress, elevate, is all designed to draw blood flow away from the injured tissue. When you rest something, there's no reason for blood flow to be going there. But of course, if it's injured, it's naturally going to want to accumulate there because blood is healing. That's actually what blood does, is it starts healing tissues. And when blood flows to an area that's injured, it throbs, it hurts, it's not pleasant. Yeah. And the first reaction people have after rest is like, well, ice it. It hurts. And what does ice do? It draws blood flow away from the affected tissue. And as a result, your injury is just sitting there with like no blood flow to heal it. So it doesn't hurt, but it's not healing either.
It's not any better. Yeah.
And the same thing with compression. When you wrap something tightly, it's preventing extra blood flow to the area. So swelling is a good thing.
Wow. Okay.
And then elevation, raise it above the heart, draws blood flow down away from the injured tissue. So like everything about that acronym is to reduce pain.
Right.
And also painkillers are another prime example of another thing that draws blood flow because they're anti-inflammatory, and inflammation is blood flow.
Blood flow. Yeah. Ooh, that's interesting. So So what do you do instead?
Now, mind you all, I'm not a doctor. This is just coming from an exercise physiologist. But
Fair.
generally speaking, what we recommend, obviously, after seeing a doctor would be to kind of focus on rehabilitation of that injury. And it won't look like, what you probably think it will. But like a lot of people, their immediate reaction is like, I'm hurt. I got to lay off of it. Got to sit down, got to give it a break. So if you roll your ankle, you're more likely to sit around and not walk around because it hurts, obviously. But the thing about that is when you're just sitting around not doing anything, it's allowing scar tissue to develop around that area that's injured as well. And scar tissue kind of develops like a bundle of gobbledygook. It's just kind of like, think of like a bunch of squiggles, like if you scribble really, really fast in a circle.
Right.
That's how scar tissue lays down in our bodies.
Oh, wow.
And so when you do movement, it actually forces the scar tissue to follow the muscle lines. So it goes along with your muscle patterns. And so you still keep your range of motion after you heal. Otherwise, you lose range of motion.
That is fascinating because range of motion is like, not only is it such a big deal, but that's something that a lot of people lose. So it's probably because of this rice theory that, has been followed for too long.
Yeah. And like, it's not saying anybody is bad for doing it because you can do that if it hurts. Like I understand sometimes pain really sucks and like no one likes pain. So if you have to, you have to. But ideally, more often than not, what is recommended is do things that promote blood flow, not divert blood flow. So I liken it to physical therapy. Right? Because people sit there and say they get injuries. Like the first thing I say is like, if you get a surgery, what do they make you do immediately after your surgery?
Probably get up and walk.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
They do. No, they absolutely do. Any situation where you're in a position where you get like a big surgery, usually within a couple of days, they have you up and moving around. Now, part of it is to prevent blood clots because movement promotes blood flow, but movement promotes blood flow. That's like right there.
I love that.
So like injuries, and we think about, okay, you get injured, you go to the doctor. Was the doctor prescribe you PT? Because PT, physical therapy, is a means of rehabilitating an injury with movement.
Right.
Well, it wouldn't exist if it didn't work. And it's been around as long as, if not longer than rice.
That's a super good point. So that saying, motion is lotion, goes beyond just like your joints will feel better if you move your body, right? For someone who's not injured, it's also applicable to injuries. Start to lotion your injuries, so to speak. Okay.
It's preventing that scar tissue from building up and limiting your range of motion because it's injured. You're going to get scar tissue. That's just what happens.
Right. Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. I feel like I'm learning a lot here. This is actually really good.
That's why I wanted to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm curious because I think that this will be a question that patients would ask regardless if someone, I guess not regardless, but if you have like a movement routine established, maybe some level of fitness established, when you do get an injury like that, how quickly can your body lose any level of fitness, I guess I'm trying to say, or aerobicness during that inactive kind of phase.
Yeah.
If someone is doing the inactive part.
I mean, if we're just sitting around, like what people don't realize is, there's a reason why we suggest doing strength training 3 days a week. Typically it's like every other day because you start to lose muscle strength almost immediately after you stop.
No way.
It happens within 48 hours. Your body starts to break it back down again. Because you have to maintain it.
Right.
So if you're not regularly practicing that, it starts to go down. So if you get injured and you just lay off, all of your fitness levels are going to go down, not just strength, like cardio is going to decline pretty quickly. Flexibility is going to go down, especially in that area that is affected because it's all swollen and whatnot. So basically it's almost instantaneous, right? And obviously people can get very frustrated with that because, typically I find injuries happen when you're like peak. You're like, I am on it. And then you hurt yourself. And then you're just like, oh my gosh, I just injured myself. And now I can't do the thing that I was doing. And what I think is important to remember is you should still keep moving, but maybe we need to change what you're doing to accommodate the injury. So it's not about just, okay, I guess I got to stop. it's really just promoting more movement in different ways.
Okay. Movement through recovery almost, right? As opposed to like just taking the whole entire time period off. Okay. That's really interesting because we've talked about before on this podcast how we've, grown up athletes and stuff. And I remember in my college career specifically when I was probably like working out the most, I would almost always typically take about a month off around graduation time before diving into like club over the summer and stuff. And I always was dreading going back because I knew it was going to be hard. So that's interesting how quickly it happens.
Yeah, you have to constantly maintain it. It's like, this is such a weird analogy, but like this is the first thing I thought of. If you know the Golden Gate Bridge is red, they paint that sucker every day. Every day there's a team up there painting it to keep it from rusting. And if they stop, it starts to rust. So they have to paint it every day. So moving is the same way or else we start to rust.
Wow. Okay. That's a really great analogy, actually.
I've never said it before. Rust. It happened just now. It's organic. You're welcome.
We got to witness the start of this wisdom here. I'm going to have to steal that, honestly. That's
Please
really
do.
Good.
Please do. But it is really like that, though, because our bodies need constant movement. We're meant to move. And the second you stop, deconditioning is almost instantaneously going to start happening. Now, you're not going to go from being, running several miles a day within a day. Now you can't run anything unless you're not injured, of course. But when you're injured, it's okay to recognize things are going to go down. It's going to happen. That's just what happens. But we have to take care of our injuries, right? Or else it's going to be even harder to get back into it because you won't have the range of motion. You won't have that ability to do those things because now you're stiff or there's scar tissue built up and you can't do things like you used to.
Right.
So rehabilitating things in that process is super important. And sometimes PT can be a really helpful tool there. So if your doctor can refer you out to PT, but if it's something like a light ankle sprain, maybe it's not worthwhile for you to go like, I'm going to go to the doctor because I just rolled my ankle on the sidewalk and here we are, which is like quote unquote what I may have done many times. So that's why I swim. I can't roll my ankle in the pool. So with that, it's always important instead of rest, ice, compression, elevation, light range of motion exercises. So like if it's an ankle, you just roll it around through whatever feels mildly uncomfortable. It's not going to feel great, but don't force it if it really, really hurts. It's just, try to do a little bit of movement, stimulate blood flow. Heat is another one. So not having ice. So using heat 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off, alternate with ice if it's painful. So you can mitigate that pain, but you do want to draw blood flow to that area and keep moving. Like don't lay off of it. Like even if you're limping, it's better than not moving at all because movement is stimulating blood flow. So if you have to walk and you're kind of hobbledy, that is what it is. But you're still stimulating that blood flow to help it heal faster. And you will heal much more rapidly the more blood flow you allow to the area. And really what I say is like the best time to mitigate pain is probably when you're sleeping. So like if you're like, it hurts so bad, I can't sleep, then you can do what you need to do to manage your pain. But unless it's sleepy time, pain during the day, if you can bear with it, that would be my recommendation is just, do some light movement within your abilities. But, don't do it so it's like excruciatingly painful either. Like if it's excruciating, maybe you should talk to a doctor, actually.
Right. I talk about that in class sometimes. Like there's a discomfort that is natural with movement, right? Like we don't love necessarily getting sweaty or getting our heart rate up or like working hard at something physically, right? But there's a difference between like discomfort and like the pain you don't push past, right? And we just kind of have to like learn where that is, right? And then, like you said, when we hit that point, that's like, okay, of course you should be talking to your doctor for sure.
Yeah. Like there's a level of like, this pain's like almost unbearable. Maybe it's worse than you think and you should just probably see a doctor. Like that's where they might have to do an x-ray and see if there's any other damage. Because like sprains have degrees. They can get significantly worse. I'm not going to get into that, but that's just something to keep in mind. Like sprains can get pretty bad. So, when in doubt, talk to a doctor. But like, if you can put weight on it and you're like, I can walk around, I might be limping a little, it's definitely like tender, then that's where like, this is where my recommendation might come into play a little bit.
In that thought of like, things can get worse, basically, if someone maybe has like the start of an injury, right? Like you can kind of feel that something's not right or I don't know, isn't where it should be, but they're like, keep pushing. If someone has that mentality to like push through the pain, push past it, I would imagine eventually we could make it worse too. And that's like, yeah, so catching it early on, if it's something that's like slow and progressive, might be something that's smart to be mindful of.
Yeah. If anything ever gets worse, it's usually a sign to stop. Like I can give you a great example because it's a personal experience of mine, but like I decided when I was at the gym, I was going to do some reverse flies with weights, and I upped my weight. And I did my first rep on my third set, back went out like immediately. And I was like, ugh! And I was like, oh, no. that's that. And so I stopped lifting. I put the weights down. I slowly stood up. I was like, I'm going to go do cardio now. Wow. That was the stupidest thing I could have done in that moment because I felt my back just get stiffer and stiffer and stiffer. So another pro tip here is in the initial stages of this injury, that's where rest might be ideal, like the first day or two. Yeah. Then you go into the light range of motion. So like you have to give it a bit to like calm down. Because like I know people throw out their backs. That's just what people do. It's a price you pay with the AGE process.
Isn't that the truth? Shoot.
Yeah.
And throwing out that back can take a while to recover from. That's actually one of the ones that I've thrown out my back a number of times, and I have absolutely been like, fabulous. Now I'm going to do everything against what Melanie said and I don't move. So it's good to know that you should actually get up and walk. I'm curious, do you have any pro tips from like the mental side of things? Because I would imagine whether it being that like we've learned over time, something that science is now proving we should like actually move through, right? Like we shouldn't rest quite as much, or whether it's because like it's uncomfortable and some amount of that pain that we have to work through is going to be painful, you know? Do you have any pro tips for like the mental side of that? Like,
yeah, I think obviously the initial stages of like right in the throes of the injury where you're like, it happened. Yeah. It's devastating, really. It's just like, I can't believe this. Like,
it's a good point.
I'm hurt. Like I can't do anything now. I can't do my normal routine. And maybe you're really attached to your normal routines. That can make it tougher for you. And it can make you depressed. It can make you very bummed out, very sad, especially if you're someone who utilizes this as a form of stress management. Yeah. So it can make you feel pretty bad. And then because you're kind of changing up your routine and doing stuff that you may feel is like, it's not worth it. Why am I bothering? I just explained it is, by the way, it is worth it to do these little things I just talked about.
Right.
Then you're out of like, quote unquote, like out of it. You're out of shape, essentially. Like you're not where you were X amount of weeks later. And you may feel like I'm a failure. I suck. I'm no longer in it. Like it's going to be exponentially harder to get back into it. And like when you get knocked out of your routine, it is really hard to get back into it. And what I always want people to remember is everyone gets injured, and beating yourself up isn't going to make it heal any faster. And it isn't going to make you get in shape any faster. How you talk to yourself, right? You know, an example, like, gosh, I think back to when the pandemic first started. Like, I think this is a great example because like, it's not necessarily injury per se, but like, you know, remember the first few weeks of the pandemic and like, we couldn't go to the gym. We couldn't do the things we were normally doing. We're kind of thrown out of our routines.
Absolutely.
And then those weeks turned to months and then months to years. And we're like, oh my gosh, we got to do something. Yeah. And at that point we started like everyone, I think, started getting really creative with what they were doing. We're put in a position where we had to say, okay, it's time to do stuff that's different. And I went from someone who was like, I hate running, to running the hills of La Mesa 3 days a week, 3 miles a day.
Wow.
Yeah. So impressive. I was like, I don't have a gym, but I have hills. I guess I'm going to start running now.
I got feet. Yeah.
Yep. And so I started doing that, and just to change up what I was doing, and had to accept, okay, I can't go to the gym and lift heavy weights, and I can't go to the gym and swim. So I have to do something. And just being okay with doing something different that's not necessarily what you're used to. It's the self-talk. It's like, this is a different stage, and it's okay to change it up. Even if it's not what I prefer to be doing, it's still better than nothing at all.
Yeah, I love that. So be flexible, right? Yeah. Like give yourself grace, but also be flexible and be willing to dip your toes into some different waters, perhaps, right? And trying to remember, it sounds like to your point, trying to remember that it is a season, right? Or a phase. This isn't necessarily something that is like permanent for you. Although, hey, if it turns into a love, I mean, even better. But
nope. I still don't run now. I got
Just
back
kidding.
in the pool. I got back in the pool as soon as I could. I think it was like
yeah.
early 2022. I was like, nope, I'm done. Back in the pool we go. And
Okay,
that's where we went. So
That's so funny because also growing up as a fellow swimmer, that's why I'm like amazed that I was like, running's not for me. So I did the whole, I've got like some home equipment.
uh-huh.
to
I
work
do
out
too.
with.
I got a bike and
Yeah.
some weights. They're sitting next to me, relics of the pandemic. I have not used them because of gym memberships now, but either way, kind of back to the
Yes.
injury thing though. It's just
Mhm.
accepting that things may look different. And
Yes.
it doesn't mean you're out of it forever. It just means it might take some time to get back into the sport that you love or the activity that you love and being okay with that.
I love
And
that.
you know, it's an opportunity to try different things too. Cause I like to think about it this way. If you look at like professional sports, football's not year round. Baseball's not year round.
True.
They're not doing football in the off season. The off season's there for a reason. Your body actually needs to change things up anyways. It's not good to do stuff consistently like that for years and years and years.
Yeah. It can be hard on your body.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. And so if we look at it from that lens of like, if you look at professional athletes having to have an off season, they all do other things during the off season. And then they come back. So they're still in shape per se, but they're doing a
Mhm.
different activity. So if we think about it coming back from an injury, that was your off season, right? So now
Yeah.
we slowly can build ourselves back up onto the on season. By the way, if you look at periodization of a workout, there's still like a preseason there too. Okay. There's season, preseason, off season. You know, there's all sorts of stuff that goes into it. It's more complicated than I'm making it sound, but
Yeah.
you know, with injuries, it's similar.
Absolutely. And that's a good point. There's always like a time period of getting back into it, right? And so I'm actually curious, is there anything that you would deem or think would be like gentler or safer for whether it's someone who just like lives with a lot of pain or has an injury and they're getting back into it? You know, like sometimes I think about water, obviously, and how it like takes gravity out of the picture, and that can be gentle for sometimes for some people. But
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the pool is a really, really good source for rehab. That is like
Okay.
a really, really good tool for rehab because you're exactly right. The gravity portion,
yeah,
that is what can cause some of the pain. And so what people find is if they have mobility issues on land and they're walking around just hard, when they get in the pool, because there is no gravity, they're actually to do more range of motion in a pool than they would if they were on land. So
wow,
pool walking, water walking, doing dumbbells in the pool, like using the pool to your benefit of not having gravity. And that can definitely benefit you in the sense of giving you the ability to move more than maybe you otherwise could.
I love that. I love that. And being where we live in Southern California, we can almost use that pool year round nearly, right?
Yeah.
So like that's wonderful. That's wonderful
Yeah.
that it's so helpful.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not everyone has access to a pool, but like, you know, if you don't have access to a pool, alternatively, it's just, you know, seated modified exercises where you're sitting. So you're sitting down and you can lift your legs or your arms up and do stuff that way where you're not having to walk or stand, you know, depending on the injury that you get, of course. Supported is usually ideal in the beginning stages anyways, just so you don't re-injure yourself. So any way that you can support yourself. But typically, like you were mentioning, and I said too, it's like water is kind of the best one in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then that makes me think like when people are getting back into it post injury or post pain or anything like that, in your opinion, do you think it's important to like, I don't know, almost redefine what success would look like to you then? Like maybe your goals were different before. You wanted to do XYZ, right? Like you had some goal you were trying to reach, but is that important something to redefine or kind of change around when after you've experienced a setback?
Absolutely. Yeah. If our successes were deemed what we were doing when we were in our athletic phase before we injured ourselves, of whatever those were that you chose, like, oh, I'm running more, or I'm doing longer, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like whatever the success you deemed then. Obviously, you're not doing that now. So we
Right.
have to be okay with saying like, okay, how are you feeling physically? How are you feeling mentally? Like, even though it's not what standard you may have held yourself to however long ago, how are you feeling now that you've started doing this other type of activity or like modify this activity? Because successes can look like a lot of different things and they're different for everybody. But when we're injured and we have to get back into things, we have to be okay with being happy with how we're starting and moving along in the early stages and not beating ourselves up. Because like I said, if you can't be successful if you're beating yourself up, it's very, very hard to do. Like, you know, I liken it to, and I say this analogy, this one is not original, where it's like your internal self-talk is very negative. So it's like you're talking to yourself while you're holding your head underwater. And you're like, get out of the pool, get out of the pool. And you're like, I'm drowning. It's like, nope, get out of the pool. How can you get up if you're holding yourself down?
Wow.
So we don't want you to do that to yourself. Plus you have to live with yourself all the time. So it's not a pleasant place to be if you're doing that.
True.
So just being okay with where things at. And I keep reiterating this because it's really hard to do, but you just have to have these conversations with yourself and like, it's okay. I will eventually get back there. But for right now, I have to focus on getting better and working my way towards that.
I love that. So like meeting yourself where you are, right?
Exactly.
Don't expect yourself to be, that's almost like just a good analogy for life, right? As we move into like aging, for example, I can't expect myself to be, you know, moving how I was in my 20s, right?
Yeah. And injuries can become more prevalent as we get older. And this is something that people are going to experience more so as they age. It just is what it is.
More
Your body changes constantly.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I would imagine taking time off as we age, you'd probably feel it more sooner, right? Versus like when we were younger.
Not necessarily. It's about the same age. Like I love to say, age is but a number when it comes to like level of fitness and how quickly it declines.
Nice.
It's all the same, regardless of who you are. So the harder thing is getting back into it. Getting out of it, equally sucky for both parties. Getting back into it, actually, for people who are older, it takes more time.
Okay.
It takes more time. So it'll take a little bit longer. And, you know, there's other compounding variables as we get older. Like obviously muscle mass will start to decline naturally around the age of like 35 to 40. There's no specific age, it's just kind of a range, but muscle mass will start to decline. So we're already combating nature. And so if you're out of a strength training routine because you hurt yourself, maybe you hurt your shoulder and you can't lift weights right now, you know, what are you supposed to do? Right? That can be really frustrating. And it's just accepting like, okay, maybe I'm going to lose a little bit of muscle. It doesn't mean I can't get it back because you can. Age is but a number. It just might take a little bit more time than it did when you were in your 20s or your teens.
Okay. So have more patience, right? Don't expect immediate, which we always want something like immediate results, right?
But as we do, such is the way.
Yeah, truly. Okay. I love that. So my last question is, do you have like something that you would deem as like a win for someone who's like coming back into early stages of moving their body again, working through an injury, something like that? Is there anything in particular that would, I mean, I guess it probably depends on the injury, but.
It depends on the injury. I mean, obviously we have to look at what exactly happened. You know, if you threw out your back, if you sprain an ankle, you hurt your rotator cuff, like there's so many injuries we could get.
Yeah.
And it's just, whatever it is that you choose to do to start getting back into it, be happy with what you're doing. Because were you able to do that 2, 3, 4 weeks ago? Right? Like being happy with the fact that you did that and that you were out of it because you were hurt and now we're getting back in there. And, you know, could be as you're rehabbing, you notice like, oh, I can move my ankle a little bit more and a little bit more and I'm limping less and I'm actually able to walk longer without it being as painful. And, you know, taking every win every day and just being okay with those as being those wins. You're improving and recognizing that you're improving.
I love that. Yeah, those are the things that stack up to be the big wins. And I love that, taking a second to recognize that you are improving. I think that can be hard for a lot of people. That's for me, where my brain goes, is I would almost need to track, you know, like how did I feel on this day and how far did I go? And then, you know, so I could like see over time if my improvement, but sometimes we don't give ourselves credit for it. That's all.
We don't. I mean, people generally like they set their expectations really high. The bar's real high. Like I need to be here and I'm not down here. And that's unacceptable because I should be here. And like, I know that personally because of being an exercise physiologist. I think in general, people in this particular field hold themselves to really stinking high standards where the average person might be like, I did my 30 minutes today. And I'm like, that's not enough because I hold myself to really high standards. And that's just the name of the game. And so for anyone maybe who's an athlete who holds himself to really high standards, that's the hardest part to grapple with is recognizing where you're at, meeting yourself where you're at and being okay with it. And so if that is the case where you're struggling because you're out of it because of an injury, I like that idea of tracking how you're feeling each time you do these exercises and like document how much more you've been doing. Because sometimes it takes us to take a step out and look at the bigger picture and see what have we done,
Yes, truly.
Because if you're in it in the moment, like it's like I talk about this with my patients with weight loss too. It's like if you're looking at yourself every day in the mirror, you won't really notice these changes because it's happening on small microscopic levels constantly all day, every day. So like, how would you know these dramatic changes until, let's say, several months down the road, you look in the mirror and go, oh, I have lost weight. It's like, yeah, you have been. It's the same way with injury rehabilitation. Every day is a constant improvement, but because it's happening small, tiny things every day, it's hard to notice until like you're better.
Right. Yeah. It's easy to feel like you're just stuck in the same place.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So it could be like, how many ankle circles did you do without pain? Or, how far can you point or flex your toe? Or, if you hurt your shoulder, are you able to raise it above your head? Or how high can you get it? And just, measuring these little things that you're doing. Because like if you got a PT, they're measuring how your range of motion is there too.
Right.
They do that to track their progress. So why can't you do the same? Right.
Exactly. Self-monitor at home. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, this has been really insightful.
Yeah. I'm glad that I could enlighten everybody because, we get injured and it happens. And maybe it's because I'm going on this trip. And funny enough, last year I sprained my ankle on the same trip. So it's like in my head of like, I don't want to get injured this trip.
100%. Yeah, 100%. It's just good to know, that there is going to be a discomfort level, but movement is actually the answer. Like regardless of our age and the phase of life we're in, like, or what we're going through physically, movement is always and should always be there, which is just good to know.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and like I said before, and I'll say it one more time, just to kind of finish up here, but if you're ever in doubt, talk to your doctor. Like I'm not a doctor. Yes. I'm just an exercise physiologist. So I do know a bit. I wouldn't say that I know about like, if your bone is broken, what to do. Cause that usually requires stuff that's out of my wheelhouse, like a cast. So, there are the times where it might be helpful just to talk to a physician about other courses of action. Cause they're helpful as well. It's not just solely on the shoulders of the exercise people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's good advice.
All right. Well, it's about that time.
So quick.
We must wrap up. But I appreciate all of you listening. So with that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to comment below. If you want to work with us or, learn more about what we do, you can visit positivechoice.org. But otherwise, until next time, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Struggling to lose weight and keep it off? At the Positive Choice Integrative Wellness Center, our meal replacement program can help you take the guesswork out of weight loss. With support from medical providers, dietitians, and health educators, you'll use nutritionally complete meal replacements to lose weight safely and effectively. The best part? You're not doing it alone. Whether you want to lose 10 pounds or 100, our program is flexible, affordable, and focused on long-term success, not quick fixes. Take the first step towards lasting change. Visit positivechoice.org/meal replacements to learn more and get started today.